I never believed in fate, or curses, or whatever invisible force decides to flip your life upside down in a single moment. That is, until the day she appeared at my door with that unnerving smile, holding a small, intricately wrapped box. "Open it," she said casually, as if handing me a simple gift. But her eyes, they glimmered with mischief and something I couldn't name. The kind of look that makes your stomach twist, your pulse spike, and every instinct scream, "This will change you." I hesitated. My fingers hovered over the box, trembling slightly. What is this?" I asked, trying to sound casual, but my voice cracked in a way that betrayed me. "It's a challenge," she said simply. "Just a little game. I think you'll like it, or hate it." I stared at her, confused. A game. My mind raced. What kind of game involved a stranger, or someone I thought I knew, handing you a box like it held a secret that could ruin your life? She shrugged, a teasing tilt of her head. "Open it, and find out." Then she left, leaving me alone on my doorstep with my heart hammering and the box heavy in my hands. Finally, curiosity overpowered caution. I tore the wrapping carefully, like a bomb could explode at any second. Inside was a note, and beneath it, an outfit. Not casual clothes. Not something ordinary. A dress. Soft, delicate, impossibly feminine. Accompanied by a pair of shoes with tiny heels and a handwritten note. "Wear it. Follow the instructions. Discover who you really are, if you dare." I laughed nervously, but the sound was hollow. My pulse was deafening. I wanted to throw it away, to run, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But my hands didn't move. My mind was a storm of fear, doubt, and something else. Something that whispered, "What if you do it?" That night, alone in my room, I finally surrendered to the curiosity I had been trying to suppress. I stepped into the outfit. The fabric was soft, almost alien against my skin, clinging to curves I didn't know I had. My chest felt lighter, yet fuller. My hips swayed differently as I moved. And when I finally looked in the mirror, I barely recognized the reflection staring back at me. It wasn't just the clothes. It was the way I held myself. The tilt of my head. The curve of my shoulders. The unfamiliar weight of the shoes beneath my feet. Every detail whispered that I had become someone else. Someone fragile, graceful, and intoxicatingly new. Panic struck first. My hands trembled as I touched my face, my neck, my arms. "This can't be real," I whispered. But even as I said it, a part of me, hidden, reckless, excited, thrilled at the sight. The reflection in the mirror wasn't mocking or cruel. It was challenging. Daring me to step further, to explore what I had never dared before. The next morning was worse. My reflection seemed to have taken on a life of its own overnight. My hair fell in soft waves around my shoulders. My eyes looked wider, more expressive, more alive. Every glance I cast in the mirror was met with this strange, unrelenting stare from someone who was both me and not me. I tried moving naturally, walking to the kitchen, pouring coffee, but my body didn't obey. It had been reshaped, subtly but undeniably. Every step, every gesture, every tilt of my head reminded me that I was inhabiting a world I had never been meant for. Then came the first real test. My phone buzzed. Messages from friends, family, co-workers. All noticing. All commenting. All curious. "Wow, is that really you? You look different. What's going on?" Each message made my heart pound. Each glance at my reflection made me question everything I had thought I knew about myself. The fear was overwhelming. But so was the strange, undeniable thrill of living in this new form, of feeling seen. By the time night fell, I was exhausted, physically and emotionally. I stared at the mirror one last time, tracing my new jawline, my delicate neck, the curve of my waist. I whispered to the reflection softly, almost reverently. I don't even know who I am anymore." And yet, somewhere deep inside, I knew. This wasn't just a game. This was a beginning. And no matter how terrifying it was, I couldn't turn back. Section 2. Daily Life Disruption, Fresh Start. The first time I walked outside fully dressed in her clothes, the world seemed sharper, louder, and impossibly brighter. Every sound, the chatter of neighbors, the honk of a passing car, the soft rustle of leaves in the wind, felt amplified, like I had tuned into some hidden frequency of life I'd never noticed before. My reflection in the front window caught me mid-step. My hair framed my face differently, softening my jawline. My skirt swayed lightly with each movement, my new posture almost instinctively delicate. I froze for a moment, panic gnawing at the edges of my mind. What if someone sees? What if someone recognizes me, really sees me? And then, the first whispers began. Across the street, a group of teenagers lingered near the corner store. Their heads turned, subtle smiles forming, eyes flicking in my direction. One girl whispered to her friend, giggling, and I could almost hear every word in my mind. Who is that? She looks different. My pulse spiked. I wanted to disappear, yet my legs moved forward of their own accord, as though guided by some unseen force. At the cafe, the barista's eyes lingered longer than necessary. New style today, she asked, her tone casual but edged with curiosity. I nodded quickly, voice trembling. Yeah, just trying something different. The words sounded wrong. They weren't fully mine. Every syllable felt heavier, softer, fragile. I realized in that instant that the challenge had become more than just a private experiment. It was reshaping how I interacted with the world, how the world interacted with me. Back at home, my family noticed. My mother's gaze lingered, worried and curious all at once. You look so changed, she said softly. I avoided her eyes, my reflection in the kitchen window staring back at me like a silent accuser. I just wanted to try something, I mumbled, unsure if I even believed it myself. The first full day at work was worse. My desk felt exposed, my chair too large, my body too soft and fragile in ways my colleagues weren't accustomed to seeing. Whispers erupted like tiny bombs every time I passed. Some colleagues smiled politely, while others averted their gaze, unsure how to react. I felt myself shrinking under every glance, every murmur. One coworker, braver than the rest, leaned over my desk. Hey, is that really you? Her eyes flicked over me, curious but hesitant. I froze, caught between the urge to flee and the strange, magnetic pull of attention. Yeah, it's me, I whispered, voice high, soft, barely audible. The whispers escalated. Some colleagues started asking questions I couldn't fully answer. Others simply stared. I felt my body betray me with every movement, hands trembling slightly, posture subtly unbalanced, my voice soft and tentative. By midweek, even small errands became minefields. At the grocery store, I realized how every glance felt amplified, every murmur felt directed at me. I caught a man staring for longer than necessary. His eyes scanned my body, lingering on curves I hadn't noticed before. My stomach twisted in fear, yet heat rose to my cheeks in ways that confused me. I tried hiding behind oversized jackets and hoodies, but even then, the weight of this new identity pressed against me. I couldn't escape it. Every step, every reflection in shop windows reminded me that I was no longer just me. The challenge was now public, social, unavoidable. Friends didn't make it easier. Texts, calls, and comments arrived daily. Wow, is that really you? You look amazing. I barely recognized you. Some were teasing, some admiring, and some just flatly confused. Every message made my heart race, fear, shame, curiosity, and something dangerous, excitement. Even private moments became stressful. At night, standing in front of my mirror, I would replay every glance, every whisper, every comment. My reflection seemed almost alive, studying me, questioning me. Do you belong here? Can you survive this? Are you ready to be her? I began noticing small, physical changes I hadn't anticipated. My posture shifted naturally, subtly, without conscious thought. My gestures became softer, more deliberate. I walked differently, spoke differently, moved differently. Even my emotions felt altered, sensitivity heightened, reactions sharper, laughter lighter, tears easier to shed. The first real confrontation came at the office cafeteria. A group of colleagues, friends I thought I knew, sat at a table. Whispers turned into pointed glances, questions, and comments. So, how long are you going to keep this up? One asked, half teasing, half serious. I froze. This isn't a costume. This is me now, isn't it? Yes, I said finally, voice barely audible, but firm. I need to figure this out. My hands trembled as I reached for my drink. They looked at me differently after that, some with curiosity, some with silent acceptance, some with thinly veiled discomfort. But I no longer flinched. At least not entirely. The week became a blur of whispers, stares, questions, and self-conscious movement. Every trip outside, every casual interaction, became an exercise in control, performance, and adaptation. I realized that the challenge had gone beyond private experimentation. My life was no longer fully mine. The challenge had rewritten the rules, and the world was now part of the test. By the weekend, exhaustion and exhilaration collided. Sitting in my room, alone, I traced the curves of my arms and shoulders in the mirror. The reflection no longer looked like a stranger entirely. I was learning her, learning myself in ways I had never imagined. The challenge had begun as a simple dare. But now, it had grown into something much more, something unstoppable, terrifying, and intoxicating. Something that demanded I confront the world, confront myself, and accept that my life would never be the same. After the chaos of public stares, whispers, and awkward encounters, I craved solitude. I needed to reclaim control in a space where no one could judge, no one could comment, and no one could interfere. My bedroom became a sanctuary, a laboratory for discovering what I truly could be, and who I truly wanted to become. I started small. A scarf draped over my shoulders, a pair of earrings glinting in the soft light. Every touch, every movement felt amplified. I ran my fingers along the fabric of the skirt I had worn earlier, feeling the texture against my skin, marveling at how it made me feel softer, delicate, yet undeniably powerful. Standing in front of the mirror, I began experimenting with gestures. A tilt of the head, a slow blink, the subtle shift of weight from one foot to the other. Each motion was deliberate, yet natural. It felt like learning a secret language, a language my body already understood but had never spoken aloud. Then came makeup. I had never considered it seriously before. Brushes, powders, and colors sat like alien tools on my desk. With trembling hands, I applied foundation, careful not to overdo it. My reflection blinked back at me. Softer. Smoother. More alive. I experimented with eyeshadow, mascara, and lipstick, each addition transforming the way I felt inside, not just how I looked. The most fascinating part was my voice. Alone, I spoke aloud, testing tones, pitch, and inflection. I laughed softly, higher than normal, experimenting with cadence. I tried reading aloud from a book, adjusting vowels, elongating consonants, shaping words in ways I had never imagined. My voice was no longer a simple instrument of communication. It became a tool of expression, delicate yet assertive, vulnerable yet confident. Clothes became a playground. I tried on outfits, mixing and matching in ways that felt daring and thrilling. Blouses with flowing sleeves, skirts that swayed with every step, shoes that clicked delicately as I walked across the room. Each combination offered a new sensation, a new confidence, a new version of myself to inhabit. Movement exercises became rituals. I practiced walking in heels slowly, deliberately, learning balance and poise. Spins in front of the mirror revealed how the skirt moved, how the shoes shaped my gait, how the posture affected my presence. I laughed, stumbled, and sometimes fell, but every failure was a lesson, every recovery a small victory. One evening, I recorded myself. My camera captured my gestures, my posture, my facial expressions, and my voice. Watching the playback was revelatory. I saw someone who was familiar, yet entirely new. I noticed nuances I had never considered, the way my shoulders relaxed, the tilt of my chin, the subtle sway of my hips. It was mesmerizing and frightening all at once. I began keeping a journal, not just of thoughts but of experiences. Each day documented my experiments, which outfits felt empowering, which gestures felt natural, which tones of voice conveyed confidence versus vulnerability. Writing became a mirror for my mind, a reflection of my internal transformation that complemented the external one. Curiosity drove me further. I experimented with subtle facial expressions, soft smiles, playful glances, and even intentional pauses in speech. Each exploration revealed how much control I could have over perception, how much power there was in inhabiting a persona fully and deliberately. The thrill of discovery was addictive. Alone, I could be perfect. Flawless. graceful. Every stumble corrected, every movement rehearsed, every glance calculated yet natural. In these private moments, I was untouchable, unstoppable, entirely free to explore every nuance of this identity without fear of judgment. I also explored emotional depth. I practiced empathy, vulnerability, and subtle charm in the mirror. I spoke to myself as if to a friend, a confidant, a lover even. My reflection responded, silently, with understanding and encouragement. Each interaction honed my ability to embody the persona fully, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. By the end of the week, the transformation in my private life was profound. I wasn't just dressing differently. I was thinking differently, moving differently, speaking differently. My reflection was no longer a stranger. It was a version of myself I had created, carefully, deliberately, and intimately. And yet, beneath the excitement, a flicker of fear remained. What if the world rejected this version of me? What if the challenge demanded more than I could give? But the thrill, the intoxicating curiosity, the sense of power and discovery, was too strong to resist. I was addicted to this new identity, to the possibilities it offered, to the person I was becoming. For the first time, I realized that the challenge had never been about her, or even about the dare. It was about me. About discovering layers of identity I had never dared to explore. And in the quiet solitude of my room, surrounded by clothes, mirrors, and whispers of possibility, I began to understand, I was no longer just a participant. I was the architect. I was the experiment. And the results were thrilling beyond measure. By the time the weekend arrived, I had spent nearly a week locked in my room, exploring every nuance of this new persona. Clothes, makeup, gestures, voice, and even the cadence of my laughter had been practiced endlessly. I was no longer just experimenting, I was becoming her. But until now, all of it had been private. The true test was outside my room, in the world where reactions mattered, where judgment lingered in the air, and where every glance carried weight. The first step was stepping outside. I chose a cafe I frequented, a place familiar enough that no one would immediately suspect a stranger had appeared. The moment I pushed the door open, I felt the subtle pull of attention. Conversations paused for a heartbeat, eyes flicked toward me, and my pulse raced. But instead of fear, I felt exhilaration. This was my stage. My persona demanded acknowledgement, and I was ready to give it. I moved with intention, every step calculated yet fluid, every gesture deliberate but natural. The skirt swayed gently, the heels clicked softly against the floor, and I noticed the way my reflection in the glass panels seemed to admire my posture. For the first time, the reflection and the person in it were aligned. Ordering coffee, I spoke with the barista, testing my voice in public. It felt strange, higher and softer than usual, but it rolled off my tongue with an elegance I hadn't known I possessed. The barista smiled, complimented my style, and I realized just how affirming even a casual positive response could be. A thrill of confidence surged through me, mingling with the ever-present awareness that the world was watching. I spent the next hours walking through the city, exploring spaces I had once navigated with a mundane sense of routine. Every passerby became part of an unspoken social experiment. I noticed how people reacted to posture, to voice, to subtle facial expressions. Some stared curiously, some admired openly, and others averted their gaze with discomfort. Each reaction was a lesson. Each glance, each whisper, reinforced the reality that this persona could exist, be noticed, and command space. Shopping became a particularly powerful experiment. I tried on dresses I would never have considered before, skirts that challenged my sense of movement, heels that demanded poise and balance. I walked in them, turned, posed subtly in front of mirrors, and watched reactions from other shoppers. Some smiled, complimented me, while others glanced away, unsure what to make of this confident yet unfamiliar presence. By midweek, the experiments expanded. I attended a small social gathering with friends, a party where my old identity had been well known. As I entered, the familiar faces froze for a moment. Some smiles were hesitant, some surprised, some outright curious. I moved through the room with confidence, head held high, gestures fluid and graceful. The conversations flowed differently now. Where once I might have shied away, I spoke clearly, softly, deliberately, letting my voice and presence command attention without demanding it. A friend leaned in, teasing yet admiring. Wow, you've really transformed. I smiled lightly, tilting my head subtly. I'm just exploring, I said. The words felt natural. They weren't an excuse, they were a statement of intent. And for the first time, I felt proud rather than ashamed of the attention. The more I navigated public spaces, the more nuanced my understanding became. I noticed the power of subtle touches, a hand brushing hair aside, a slight tilt of the shoulder, the way a glance lingered. These small actions conveyed confidence, curiosity, and charm in ways I had never experienced before. Every reaction from the world outside became a mirror reflecting not just who I appeared to be, but who I was becoming inside. Yet, with every step, every social success, there was still a flicker of anxiety. Would people accept this fully? Could I maintain this presence without faltering? What if a single misstep exposed the fragility underneath? These questions haunted me, mingling with the thrill of discovery, pushing me to refine, practice, and perfect the persona in real time. I also began to notice the emotional impact of these interactions. Laughter came more easily, smiles were more genuine, and even small compliments felt like victories. Yet, tears could also come unexpectedly, moments of vulnerability when I realized how much I had changed, how much I had risked, and how far I had come. Each emotional reaction reinforced the complexity of the transformation. It wasn't just appearance, it was identity, presence, and confidence intertwined. One night, I decided to take a walk alone in the park, fully dressed, fully aware, and fully myself. The moonlight highlighted the curves of my figure, the softness of my hair, the grace of my movements. Every step felt deliberate, commanding, and free. I realized that this wasn't just about being noticed, it was about inhabiting a version of myself that I had never allowed to exist in public. It was liberating, exhilarating, terrifying. But most importantly, it was real. The challenge that had started as a dare, a simple test, had rewritten the rules of my life. I was no longer hiding. I was not merely experimenting. I had stepped into a new identity fully, and the world was responding. By the end of the week, I understood something profound. Confidence wasn't just a posture or a voice, it was a choice. And every choice I made in public, every step I took, every glance I offered, reinforced my new reality. I was no longer just playing a role. I had become her. And for the first time, I felt unstoppable.